Hey folks, what's here? Welcome back to another Poem Master video, and tonight the Rock Type Egg event is dropping, which is pretty cool because we've actually have some, well, at least one really decent Rock Type Egg sync pair that folks should probably invest in, and we're just gonna in this video go over all the different Rock Type, eggs and stuff, and or Eggmons, I guess, and which ones that folks should probably invest in terms of, being useful as a sync pair. Obviously, if you like any of certain of these, if you like any of the Shinies, obviously you probably want to invest into those, but I'm just going over it in terms of how useful they are in general, and yeah, let's get into this then. So, anyways, starting off, first, just to let people know, the Shinies are Tech Kabutops and Striker Aerodactyl. So let's start with the Shinies then, right? So as for the Shinies, Tech Kabutops, like I mentioned before, is probably the best one here, by a mile. You want let's bring up the Synchrid, even though eggs don't have Synchrids. However, Shiny Kabutops is relevant in terms of it's a very good unit for if you want to run Kukui and Lycanroc, right? It's especially, and Lycanroc's an amazing unit, and especially important because it's the only other Sandstorm setter other than Acerola, and it's better than Acerola when you're using it with Kukui. When you're using Garchomp, you probably still want to use Acerola, but especially when you're using it with Kukui, it's very powerful due to the fact that, if I could open one of these up, not only does it have Sandstorm, it also has Rock Tomb, right? Sandstorm and Rock Tomb. It has Sand Shelter, Sands of Time, which is all fine, right? And Rock Tomb is really good because that could trigger Kukui's Hunter Instinct. That's an extra 30% when the opponent's speed is lowered down to the max, right? Obviously, you generally won't really lower the opponent's HP that much, but every time you do lower it, it does increase Kukui's power by a decent amount. So for Tech Kabutops, you definitely do want to pick that up, even if it's not, and you probably want 3 passives as well, because some units you maybe don't need 3 passives, but for Tech Kabutops you definitely do, just to pick up that last Sands of Time there, right? Which again will help tremendously with Kukui. You got Hunter's Instinct, and then also the Sand stuff, Sand Blaster, Certain Sand 5, Sands of Time 2. Where's the other? Oh yeah, on its on its passive as Surging Sand as well. I think 10 or something, or not. Well, it adds up to 10, 5, right? So that's Surging Sand 10, and then if you give it a Lucky Seal, it's Surging Sand 13. And again with Hunter's Instinct, if you decrease the opponent's speed, that definitely helps a lot. Frees up a space to run another support, right? Which Kukui definitely does need. In terms of, he has attack buffs, but his attack buffs aren't really good, and also obviously crit as well, right? So Kabutops is definitely easily the highest priority. Personally, not a huge fan of Shiny Kabutops' color. I prefer regular Kabutops, but oh well. Moving on, we've got Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl's shiny form is Striker. It's definitely not as good. Here's the thing with Shiny Aerodactyl, right? Shiny Aerodactyl is fine in a vacuum. It's an okay-ish free-to-play unit in a vacuum if Olivia didn't exist, right? Olivia is just basically Striker Aerodactyl, but so much better, right? So Striker Aerodactyl basically is just a Stone Edge unit, X attack, and then +2 crit with +4 speed. Obviously, Olivia gives you much better than that, right? Because for Olivia, you have a much higher attack stat, and you also give it accuracy, so her Stone Edge wouldn't miss. That's the biggest issue with Aerodactyl if you compare it to Olivia. Everything else, they're pretty similar. Olivia does also have Amp Up on as a passive as well, and then for Aerodactyl, you have Critical Strike 1, which Olivia doesn't have, right? And it's just that the accuracy sucks. I mean, it's Stone Edge, 80% accuracy. You generally do not want that, right? So you generally just get outclassed by Olivia, but like it's a fine striker in a nutshell. It just gets outclassed, unfortunately, right? I mean, if you want to use Aerodactyl over Olivia, like the difference isn't like, you know, it's not like extremely huge, but it's I would also say it's significant enough to make you not want to use Aerodactyl. Also, since Olivia is a banner unit, you could pull multiple copies of it. Easier to raise its sync move level, which then drastically increases, you know, Olivia's damage in that way as well. So, anyways, that's that. Moving on, we've got the let's talk about the other Kabutopses then. We got Support Kabutops. Support Kabutops, I put it in A. Support Kabutops it's fine. It has some like decent use in terms of in terms of it does have a potion, which is nice, and also gives you attack and speed. So there's that as well. It doesn't give you like too much, but like, you know, anytime there's a potion unit, you're good, right? Potion units are just very powerful in general. So even if like the support doesn't give you too much, just straight up with the potion, and again, it does give you, you know, it's +2 attack and speed, right, which is fine. So it gives you some decent stuff. Has first aid 2, which is always good as well. Revenge boost, which is fine. It's just that I don't know if folks will be investing into this. Again, overall, it's a good unit. Nothing much else to say, right? Moving on. And also, the other thing that also makes, before I forget, makes Support Kabutops generally a bit more valuable than like a lot of the other supports that we're going to talk about over here is it's a physical support, and physical supports aren't that great in this game in general, especially physical supports that can also heal and also take occasional amounts of damage if again you invest into it, right? So yeah, there's that. Post, you know, rarely do, like, not everyone's Alakazam, right? So you just pick what you can get from this one, right? Moving on, let's talk about the other Kabutops, which is Striker Kabutops. Striker Kabutops isn't that great, unfortunately. Striker Kabutops is kind of a potato. It's kind of like Tyranitar, I want to say, in a sense. Is it actually special? Oh my god, it's special, right? Oh, it's special. Alright, Striker Kabutops is super weird because its sync move is special, and then, yeah, it's basically Rock Slide, and it's just straight up a Rock Slide Striker unit, which again, you know, when you want to use Rock Slide, you generally want to use it to flinch the opponent. So if you want to use Rock Slide, just use like Grant instead, which has aggravation, which has a chance to flinch the opponent. Rock Slide as a damage dealing unit, not that great, and plus again, you like Tyranitar is a thing, right? Tyranitar also has Rock Slide as well, plus you don't really have to invest into it that much in comparison. So yeah, there's that, I guess. Moving on, let's talk about the rest of the Aerodactyls. First of all, the Support Aerodactyl, I'll probably put it over here, right? Support Aerodactyl is interesting. It gives you defenses, right? And then attack and speed. Like, these are all good stats. These are all good stats. The reason why I probably personally prefer Kabutops instead is just because of the potion, right? Otherwise, again, you know, X defense all is good, right? Everything else is basically the same, right? 1 gauge spam, which is really nice as well. So yeah, overall, it's a solid support unit, and again, physical supports. Generally, good physical supports are kind of rare. The passives are, or at least the main ones, are basically the same as Kabutops as well. This is really just a preference, right? Which one you need more. If you got a decent amount of potion use, then, you know, Kabutops isn't as useful. If not, then you probably want to pick up Kabutops, right? But otherwise, you know, Aerodactyl's fine, right? Moving on, the Tech Aerodactyl is actually decent. Here's the thing with Tech Aerodactyl though. Like, Tech Aerodactyl is a really good unit, but Grant does something similar, except I just think Tech Aerodactyl is better than Grant, But again, they do really similar things, so like it's not very necessary to run Aerodactyl if you're to have a Grant. But Aerodactyl's better, right? So here's what Aerodactyl does: Rock Slide with Aggravation, so that's an AoE flinch, which is very good. It is 3 gauges, right? So there's that. The passives are kind of pointless. And like the big issue that Grant does have is gauges, right? Because Grant, not the fastest unit in the game. It's not terribly slow, right? Let's click on reverse. It's not terribly slow, but it's not like incredibly fast either. And the thing is, again, if you're running like this alongside like another striker, the biggest problem is gauges, right? Because you're committing another 3 gauge unit to the equation as well. So you generally don't want to run a gauge heavy striker, something like a Golisopod or a Steven, or not regular Steven. Regular Steven's very gauge heavy as well. A Alolan Sandslash or something like a Morty, whatever, right? Something that doesn't really have issues with gauges. You could run them together, right? But otherwise, it does struggle with gauges. It only gives you like an extra free 4 gauges over here. And just in comparison, and it has aggravation as well. Just in comparison, that was probably better. It has X speed, and it basically has max speed, right? And gradually heal. And I think if you do invest into it, I think it does have more speed than Grant as well. Let's see. Yeah, it has more speed than Grant. So Aerodactyl it's a good unit. Tech Aerodactyl. Unfortunately, the shiny version is probably like the worst of the 3, but it's still not bad. Anyways, moving on. Let's talk about some of the Onyxes, I guess. Let's start with Striker Onyx. Striker Onyx is probably the worst of all these. This batch of Eggmons. Striker Onyx is just. It's basically going for that worst striker in the game position, unfortunately. I mean, everything else is fine. X attack is fine. Keep it up is okay, right? And then like your main damage dealing move is Head Smash, and you don't have potions, any way to heal yourself in bursts, right? Because like gradually heal would be fine on any other unit, but like not on someone who has recoil, because after you recoil, like the point with gradually heal is every time you attack, you heal a bit more, right? And with Head Smash, you will be doing more damage to yourself than you heal. Unless you're just like absolutely just hitting a wall and like you're just not buffing at all, so you're doing like no damage with Head Smash, then okay, you might heal more than you do damage, which is still very unlikely. So it does help with Stand Fast 3. Vigilance is a good passive generally. Not the best on strikers, but still, it's a good passive to have. Power Reserve 2 is pointless. I mean, it might be semi-decent on Onyx just because you decrease your HP like that. But yeah, it's pretty bad. Onyx is not... Striker Onyx is not good. Moving on. If you want to use Striker Onyx, just use like the tech Brock with expanded Synchro. Support Onyx isn't the greatest either, unfortunately. If you check Support Onyx, right... you really wouldn't really want to use it, because like support units, this is more like a tank than like a full out support. Like sure, you give plus defense and speed, which is also what Swanna gives, but like Swanna gives plus 2 defense and plus 2 speed and 1 move, and this Onyx only gives like 1. And like your other move is X defense, which doesn't even, it's not even X defense all, it's just like for your own defense. Swanna is just this, but like so much better. And like you don't even need like Swanna gridded to be better. Like Swanna ungridded is better than this. So like I guess the only thing that it has over Swanna is different weaknesses, I guess. Yeah, this unit is pretty pointless as well. Like this is honestly like borderline even C. You move it down to like completely pointless as well. However, Tech Onyx is actually decent. Although I would keep in mind that Nanu hasn't had its grid released yet, so I wouldn't really invest into it like right now. We'll probably see what Nanu's grid brings us, but it's basically like Nanu but better, because you have Screech that sharply lowers target's defense, X speed, which is really good, and then you have 1 gauge span with Rock Throw, unlike Nanu, which the lowest gauge move Nanu has is a 2 gauge move, right? So this is definitely very good. I'll take this. Vigilance. Sam reserves on bending. Like, this is a very, very good defense down unit. It's just that, again, you know, Nanu hasn't got its Synchro expanded. You should probably wait for Nanu instead. Just to see it's, you know, what happens with its Synchro, which I'm very confident would probably be better. But as for now, you know, if you need a better Nanu, you could go for that. Moving on to the Golems. Let's just look at support first, right? Support Golem, I don't know why we're looking at it first, but okay, whatever, it doesn't matter. Support Golem is not the greatest. It has the same issue with Onyx. It, like, not X defense all, it's just regular X defense, making itself like sort of like a tank, except it doesn't even self-heal. Reaches defensive speed of all allied sync pairs. Like, it's basically the same thing as you know, support Onyx, right? Except it's slightly better because it has revenge boost, I guess. Yeah, it has revenge boost, which is nice, but like, aside from that, it's also borderline, like, basically useless as well. Moving on, Striker Golem. Striker Golem is and it really, you know, saddens me because I love Gollum, right? I really like Gollum. They just completely chapter Gollum. Like, all three versions of Gollum are pretty bad. Striker Golem, it's Rock Slide Striker again. You know, you get the deal with super duper effective one. Basically pointless. X attack. Gradually heal plus defense, special defense. Not good, right? As for Tech Golem, not that great either. I was hoping, you know, maybe Tech Golem could save it. But no, it does not save it at all, unfortunately. Tech Golem, for those who are interested, it's Rock Doom. Like, the tech thing that it does is literally just lower the opponent's speed by 1. Again, this is very, very good on Kabutops because Kabutops gives Sandstorm on top of lowering speed. But, like, for this guy, like, there's no point. It's really bad, unfortunately. So, yeah, that's maybe this one, I guess. Just, you know, going over a lot of these Rock Type Eggmons. Again, if you really like, none of these are, like, other than, you know, the Tech Kabutops, which is, I think, phenomenal, right? Although, here's the thing with Tech Kabutops, though. If you don't have Kukui gridded, the use for Tech Kabutops drastically decreases. And if you don't have Cynthia gridded either, then you almost have no use for Tech Kabutops. You do have to put that caveat in there, right? If you don't have Kukui gridded, and the Kukui grid is coming tonight, for those who don't know, right? If you don't have Kukui gridded, don't have Cynthia gridded, Tech Kabutops not that good. But otherwise, it's very, 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 very powerful. So yeah, that's one. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna guys think in the comments down below. Like and enjoy this video. Subscribe to my channel for some more content. I'll see you guys in the next one.